Hello?
Okay. Hello, Abbasqulu. 1 second, please.
Yeah, of course.
Yes, now I hear you.
Great.
Okay, nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you, Mr. Rustamova. Thank you for joining us and participating in my personal project. Thank you. I appreciate it. So
Welcome.
I've prepared a set of questions for you that
Okay.
if you could likely please answer, and then we could process
Mhm.
and talk a bit more about it. So the first question is, so how would you describe the current state of Azerbaijan's economy in terms of the growth and stability?
Okay, so you know what economists usually do? They look at data, right? And when we look when we look at data, what we observe is that our economy presents this more or less steady growth, right? So from year to year, okay, it may be sometimes maybe 2%, sometimes 4%, sometimes 6%, but there is a stable growth in our economy. So basically, economy is not bad, but what the point is that unfortunately the main part of this growth is attributed to oil, right? So but when we talk about but also recently again we see non-oil industries developing, right? But uh, our dependence on oil makes us very sensitive to the change in oil prices, right? So yes, today it's stable, everything is good. But when we hear that Trump wants to reduce oil prices, we all feel a little bit nervous, right? Because it could affect our economy badly, right? And even if you look at data change in oil prices and Azerbaijan's GDP, real GDP, right? You see that the pattern, there is strong correlation, right? The patterns are actually repeating each other, right? So if oil prices increases, our GDP increases. Whenever oil prices decline, our GDP declines, right? And this makes our economy a little bit vulnerable, right? So that's an issue.
Okay, great. So let me just keep on and asking a bit more questions. So, uh, but the thing is that since our country depends on too much oil, at some point, I think the resources of the oil will decrease and decrease from time to time.
Mhm.
Do you think so?
Mhm.
So, when the oil is basically going to be none in our country, how do you think it will impact our economies, since our country is based on oil?
So do you mean when we run out of oil?
Yes, correct. Yes. So
Ah,
when
I think that what we should do, the problem is not that we will run out of oil at one day. The problem is that what happens when the supply of oil suddenly increases, right? Because we know that USA has these, storage of oil, different ways of producing oil, right? Shale oil production, right? If they start doing this, the oil prices will drop a lot, right? So
yes.
that is a problem, right? And yes, I believe that our country realizes this, and therefore, these days, recent years, we are making strong emphasis on developing of non-oil industries, right?
Okay.
Such as like alternative energy, I don't know, tourism, even agriculture, right? Pharmaceutical industries, right? So we realize that, we should diversify our production, right? We should, free ourselves from this oil dependency, and we're taking steps towards this, right? So our goal is to increase the share of other industries, right? Other sectors of economy before these oil prices decline.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, great. So let me just follow up with my another questions is, so what are the key like economic challenges which you already mentioned? You already mentioned
Mhm.
economic challenges. Like how can they be addressed like effectively and it's not gonna ruin and but it's gonna increase our economy even more.
Mhm. Mhm. Before I switch to this question, there is one more thing I want to add about previous. So I said supply increases, but
Yes.
besides the supply part, there's also a reduction in the demand for oil, right? Because we're switching to alternative ways of production, right? So that brings us back to reduction in prices and the outcoming problems, right? Now, let me address your next question, which was...
So, like, how can we address the problems, the challenges, the economic challenges which you mentioned effectively?
Okay, so what we should do in order to address these problems, right? So, apparently, right, we should try to develop more other sectors of economy, right? The ones in which we have comparative advantages, right? What we can do better than other countries at a lower cost than other countries, right? Such as, again, tourism, maybe, right? Then, logistics, yeah, because the location of Azerbaijan is very good, right? We can use this, in order to transport goods and services through Azerbaijan, right? Then what else can be the case? Agriculture, maybe, though it's not that much, the weight of agriculture products in the GDP is not that high. But, if you remember, classical textbook example about Holland, right, which switched from oil production to tulips, right, then we still have a good chance. Machinery, right? So we can do lots of things, but the main challenge is to ensure that the rule of law is enforced, right? Because, because unless we have this in place, unless we have property rights protection, unless we have this anti-monopolistic legislation enforced, right? We have it last year or 2 years earlier. We had the new anti-monopolistic legislation being developed, but unfortunately, it's not enforced yet, right? So we still have, some gaps here. Once we have all these, property rights well established, the rule of law in place, contracts enforced, right? Then people will start investing little by little. Foreign people will bring the investments here, right? And we'll be able to develop at a much faster rates, right? And at this point, you may want to refer to the recent research, right? You have probably heard about these 3 guys winning a Nobel Prize
Yes.
for their research, right? Which was about institutions and the development of countries, right?
Yes, I've heard
So
of it.
they differentiate institutions, right? They separate 2 institutions, one where they talk about the rule of law and so on. The second is about, all the power being stored within a small group of people, right? So I think that we can get explicit answers from that research, right? So first, and I would add here that in order to develop, right, in Azerbaijan, the problem is not only in the law enforcement, right? I believe that the problem is in social norms we have in our country. I'll give you a small example. You remember when pandemic happened?
Yes,
Yeah.
I do remember.
You remember at the beginning of that pandemic, we couldn't find medical masks in pharmacies. Then a couple of weeks later, or I don't know, some time later, there was a case, right, where certain people were arrested, right? There was an investigation, right, which resulted in an arrest of a couple of people, I don't remember their names and so on, who actually artificially reduced the supply of medical masks, right? Why? In order to, they kind of worked as monopolists, right? Do you see that?
Yeah.
So they took out masks from the market in order to sell them at a higher price later.
Okay.
You
Yeah.
see?
So okay.
So we have anti-monopolistic legislation, right? But what we see that people, they just do not follow the rules, right? You see what the problem is? Or I'll give you another example. The government put the price ceiling. Do you know what the price ceiling is? The highest price. The government says that you cannot sell, let's say, insulin, right, which is an important medicine for people suffering from diabetes, So the government says don't sell at a price above certain because it wants to ensure accessibility, right? The government wants to make sure that people have access. Then what pharmacists do? They just stop selling it.
Stop
Right?
selling.
And the point is that, yes, based on economic theory, we can say that their marginal costs are higher than the price and so on, therefore there is shortage. But the point is that in some cases, that's not the case, right? In some cases, pharmacists do it only to get their profit, right? To maximize their profit. And this comes from I believe, from personal attitudes, from, again, social norms we have in the country, right? So I think that with new generations, this perception has to change. Social norms have to change. People have to understand that following the rules is our priority if we want to develop, right? If someone violates the rules, this someone should not be proud of this and shouldn't show off, right? I did this, I'm so cool, right? This is what we have today in our society, right? And this is one of the main factors which prevents us from the development, right? So we have to deal with that.
Okay, makes sense. But let me just ask a question. You said an example about the pharmacy. So where people, like for example, the insulin part, yeah. So where people started to not sell it anymore because of the government laws.
Actually, it's not insulin itself, it's salbutamol.
Yes.
Right? Salbutamol.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So the
I just used
medicine.
an example of
Okay.
insulin. Yeah, it's salbutamol.
Okay. So the medicine where the law like says that you can't sell it for more, so the pharmacy stops selling it. So doesn't that also like kind of reduce our like people's health and over like their well-being? And
Yeah.
how does that actually affect the pharmacy's economy? Like how does that affect their profits and so on?
Look, what pharmacists want to do, let's say this medicine, let's say in Europe, it's sold for €1, right? Approximately 2 manats. In Azerbaijan, we used to buy it at 5-6 manats because the government put that price ceiling, right? Yeah. So it wants to make sure that everyone can buy this medicine and everyone is healthy, right? Now, health is one of the important determinant of economic growth. Yeah? Because as long as population is healthy, it's more productive, right? We produce more goods and services and we develop. That's one part, right? Another thing, coming back to your question, how does that affect? Pharmacists want to earn more money. Just that. So pharmacists say that, look, I earned 10,000 manats, let's say, selling these medicines, right? Now my cost of transportation increases, right? Now I earn not 10,000, but I earn 9,000 manats. I still make profit, because I am a hidden monopoly. This would not be possible in a competitive market. Yeah, if anti-monopolistic law was, enforced, right? Now they say we want still to get 10,000, right? Therefore, we will not sell this medicine unless the government removes this price ceiling or increases it.
Okay.
But you can get this medicine, from under the table at, let's say, 10 manats. Yeah. And that is a problem, you see?
But doesn't the government also react to the pharmacies?
Yes, the government reacts. Sure, the government reacts, right? In medical masks, the government reacted, arrested some people, right? But till it reacts, time passes.
Okay.
Right? The government cannot do it within one day, right? It takes, some time to investigate the case. First people start complaining, they send emails, letters, then the authorities look at these emails, right? They start to investigate the market, to check what happened, right? Who is responsible? Who should be, who should take the responsibility, right? And then it reacts, but till it reacts, time passes. right? So that's what I'm trying to say, right? So it's not only the case that we should say that the government should enforce the rules. Yes, the government enforces the rules, right? But we, as members of this society, have also to be responsible, right?
Okay.
This is that. We have to understand our responsibility. We don't have to blame the government only, right? This
Yeah,
is that.
also true.
So
Yeah.
our views, our social norms have to change.
Yeah,
This is
but
that.
yeah, I see. But it will take a lot of time for our social norms to change.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So let me go to my next question. So in your opinion, so like what are the most promising like opportunities for our country to transfer like beyond to transfer its economy like beyond just oil and gas or other like companies
I
out
think alternative energy.
alternative energy.
Yes, because we have winds, for instance, we are sunny. The only problem here is the storage.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to produce this energy. The problem is how to store this energy, right? Because they need to develop a certain batteries and so on. If there is this innovative way of storage, right, then we have good opportunities, right? Otherwise, I believe what could actually we can do anything, right? We have a lot of things to do, yeah.
That makes sense.
But again, tourism, again, agriculture, again, machinery, right? Pharmaceutical industry, maybe, right? I would say alternative solar energy, right? For instance, wind energy, then probably logistics,
Logistics.
yeah. Yes, then probably tourism and agriculture.
Okay. Okay. So and so what is our country's role in the global economy? And how we mentioned how can we make a position stronger, but can you expand on it more a bit for us, please?
Can we expand our position? What's our role in the global economy?
Yeah, so what is our country's role in the global economy? And how can we
Our country, unfortunately, our country is too small to affect the global economy, right? If anything, global economy can affect our country, right?
can you
This is that.
expand on that, please? Like
Huh?
can you a little bit expand on how global economy can affect our country?
So whatever happens in the global economy affects our country, right?
Yeah.
So any Russia invades Ukraine, all prices start to shrink, our economy responds, right? Yes, president elections, right? Uncertainty, oil prices start to jump, and our economy is also affected, right? This is that. So we're a small country, right? What can we do? Yeah, this is that. Yeah. So I would uh, I would rephrase the question saying how the global economy can affect us, right? Because we're a small part. We're not like such country as US, right, or China, right? This is that. We're not the main exporters of something, right? The only thing we export is oil, right? And given Saudi Arabia or OPEC countries, what is the share of oil we export, right? So what can we do? Yeah. Therefore, we have to accept and adjust to whatever happens in the world, right? And to ensure that we smoothly, develop, grow, and everything's stable, right?
Okay, makes sense.
That's it.
So like in our country, how can small and medium-sized businesses how can they help our economy in development to grow?
Now, how they can help our economy is they have to start doing something, right? Because what our small and medium-sized businesses used to do, they used to work as retailers, right? So they bought something somewhere, right, at a lower price and resold it at a higher price in our country, right? Now we have these online platforms for buying, selling, right? As a result of globalization and so on, unfortunately, they no more can make such profit, right? And what they have to do is they have to start producing something, right? They have even small things, right? We're saying agriculture, right? They have to try to develop more efficient ways of production, right? They have to research, to investigate. Often the government gives subsidies, right, or microcredits to support these small producers, right, firms and businesses, right? So they have to use it efficiently, right? Do you see that?
Yeah.
And yes, and if that is the case, then probably little by little they
This,
will reach something. Okay.
so what do you think are the key steps our countries should take to keep it stable and improving, but like in the long like future way? So like what are the small key steps that we should do in order for our country to develop in the long future, other than like
So in the long future, there is model, Solos one model, describing it's a very basic model,
Mhm.
uh, saying that in the long enough run, we will converge to steady state. Besides that, when you say very long run, you should be careful because very famous economist Keynes, right? He said that what happens in the very long run doesn't matter because in sufficiently long run, everyone is dead, right?
Okay.
So
Good,
what
good.
we want to do, we want to reach at least certain steady state point, right? Where our economy operates. Okay, in order to reach that point, we have to innovate, we have to invest, right? We have to ensure that social norms are in place, so people have to change, right? We have to enforce the rule of law, right? We have to increase education of our population, right? Which actually, you know what's the problem? We actually try to do this, right? So government provides scholarships for students to go and study abroad.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what they do, they go study there and then they do not come back, right? We
Yeah.
cannot force them to come back, right? So we have to make sure that even though they have contracts, right? So we have to enforce the contract and we have to bring these people back, right? Just that.
Okay, makes
And yes, and then little by little, probably, but first of all, we have to get rid of oil dependency and enforce the rules. Okay, law has to be enforced. Okay, if we reach these two things, then everything will be okay, right? People will come back to Azerbaijan, foreign people will invest in Azerbaijan, small businesses will try to start working, right?
okay.
Social norms, okay, three things: get rid of all dependency, enforce the laws, and change social norms. The last one is tricky because this is something that you know.
Yeah. You touched a topic about the education. Since our
Mhm.
country also it also holds like many government schools which are free, I think, yeah. Uh, like, do you think that we should include like mostly just economy topics in our government schools in order for us kind of in order for us like to later on, for example, as you said, send students later abroad? So like you touch about the education, right? So
Yeah. Uh-huh.
in the government schools, which we have lots of here in our
Uh-huh.
country,
Uh-huh. Public schools, yeah.
yeah, do you think we should include lots of economy like and business related like subjects
Uh-uh.
why not?
No, absolutely no. Why? Because look, not everyone is an economist, right? Some people are, let's say, studying chemistry. Once they graduate, they'll work at pharmaceutical industry. This is that. They'll maybe developing new vaccines. This is that. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Some.
wouldn't I'm sorry for
Mhm.
interrupting. Wouldn't
Yeah,
it
yeah.
be better for us to also focus on our economy also, like to make
No,
students?
no, no. You don't. No, no, no. Look, look. economy is not only about business, right?
Yeah.
Economy is about managing scarce resources. Yeah. You have limited amount of people, labor, and you want to make sure that they produce the most given the resources they have, right? To say that.
Yeah.
Now, what can they produce is a different question, right? Someone will study how to produce, I don't know, chemical products. Yeah. Maybe very nice perfume, maybe chocolate, maybe some drugs, maybe vaccines, right? Someone will produce, I don't know, novels, right? It's also an output, right? Your economy includes whatever you produce, right? Someone will become a, I don't know, will produce some dresses, right? Suits, right? And become a world famous, fashion person. Yeah, this is that.
Yeah.
But they all study different things, right? They start their production and then they employ different, people from business industry to manage, right? Yeah, managers are not always the producers, right? This is that. Yeah. So including economics classes everywhere, right? And economics is not business, right? Business is different from economics, right? This is that.
Yeah.
So will not help. What you have to do, you have to make sure that if a physician studies at a medical school, right, then this physician gets good knowledge, right, and tomorrow produces enough medical services,
Okay.
right? This is that.
Yes. Okay. So, to be honest, so I don't have that many questions left, and my last question for today is so where do you see our economy in the next 10 years? Let's just imagine, like, and what factors will shape it?
Where do I see our economy in 10 years? Probably we will be more developed, right? So probably, I hope at least that we will reduce oil dependency. So our exports will not consist of oil for 90%, but it will be probably, 40 to 60 or something like that. So we'll develop other industries. And the factors which could help to shape this is, again, back to the same thing, right? The rule of law, social norms. Okay. Once we have this, and our economy will start to develop.
Okay. Okay, makes
Yeah.
sense. Okay. Okay, to be honest, that's all the questions that I really have. Thank you very much for your time and participating again in the interview. Thank you very much, Ms. Namina. Thank you.
Welcome. I hope it was useful.
Yeah, it was very useful. Thank you. I got to know more about the economy hour. Yes.
Okay, good. Good
Okay.
to know.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very
Take
much.
care.
Thank you.
Welcome.